All right, let's get ready. Because today we are going deep, deep into the fascinating world of queuing theory.
Cues. Yeah,
Queues.
indeed.
Now, before you think, oh no, not another boring lecture on how to stand in line, this is way more interesting, I promise.
You know, even for Nobel laureates like us, cues can be a real pain.
Exactly, and that's why we're diving into this today.
We'll be pulling some fascinating insights from the Wikipedia article on queuing theory. Believe it or not, there's a whole field of math dedicated to understanding these systems where waiting is just, well, unavoidable.
That's right, and it all started way back in the early 1900s with a brilliant Danish engineer named Agner Kraarup Erlang.
He was working at the Copenhagen Telephone Exchange, trying to figure out, how many phone lines they actually needed to handle all those incoming calls.
Wow, imagine a world before smartphones. People actually had to wait for a line to open up to make a call. Can you believe that?
Well, Erlang was probably too busy to be nostalgic. He was grappling with the seemingly random nature of those incoming calls.
Right.
But like a true visionary, he saw a pattern, a predictable pattern, in all that randomness. That's what we now call a Poisson process.
Now, Poisson process, just for listeners who might not be familiar, it's a way to describe events that happen randomly, but with a certain average rate.
Think about it like customers arriving at a shop, or even, well, pigeons landing on a windowsill.
Yeah, there's that randomness, but also an underlying pattern.
Precisely, and Erlang's genius was in seeing those patterns and recognizing that they could be described mathematically, and that, my friend, is how queuing theory was born.
So how do we actually go about describing all these different queues? We can't just lump them all together, can we?
Of course not. We use what's called Kendall's notation. It's a clever shorthand, just 3 letters, A/S/C.
Okay, let's decode this. What do those letters actually stand for?
The A represents the arrival process, basically how things enter the queue. The S that refers to the service time distribution, how long it takes to, well, process each job in the queue. And finally, the C, that's the number of servers at the queuing node.
Queuing node sounds a bit technical. Can you give us a real-world example?
Think of a supermarket checkout. The cashier is the server, the customers are the jobs waiting to be served, and the checkout counter itself, that's our queuing node. Customers arrive, queue up, get served, and then depart.
Okay, so it's not just about physical lines then. It's about any process with a bottleneck, anything where things have to wait their turn.
Like waiting for your documents to print when the printer queue is jammed.
Exactly.
And to describe these different types of queues, we use that Kendall's notation we talked about.
Right.
For example, a simple M/1 queue represents a single server, like our cashier, with Poisson arrivals, just like those phone calls Erlang was dealing with, and exponentially distributed service times.
Ah, so this notation gives us a nice way to categorize and analyze different queuing scenarios.
It does, but to truly understand queuing theory, we need a good example. Let's dive into that M/M/1 queue. Imagine a bustling coffee shop, the smell of fresh coffee in the air, and a single barista trying to keep up with the morning rush.
Oh, the classic coffee shop queue, the perfect blend of human impatience and that need for a caffeine fix.
Well, in this scenario, we have those key concepts like arrival rate, that's how often those coffee-loving customers show up,
Right.
and service rate, how quickly our barista can make those lattes and cappuccinos.
So we're talking about not just the length of the line, but the speed at which it moves, like a dance between supply and demand.
Precisely. And then there's another concept, the probability of finding N customers in the system. Basically, what are the chances of encountering a line with 5 people ahead of you, or 10, or even 20?
So we can actually calculate the odds of being stuck behind a certain number of people. That's pretty cool.
It is, and this is where the geometric distribution comes in. It tells us the probability of having to wait for, say, 3 customers before being served. It's all about patterns and probabilities.
I'm starting to see how this works, taking those seemingly random events and finding the order, the predictability in them.
Exactly, and the beauty of it is this understanding goes way beyond coffee shops. It applies to traffic flow, computer networks, all sorts of things.
Now that you mention it, things get even more interesting when we start thinking about interconnected queues, what we call queuing networks.
Right, like a network of traffic lights or a multi-step manufacturing process.
So each stage in these systems is like a queue,
Right.
with those jobs flowing through it, waiting their turn.
Exactly. We have tandem queues where jobs move sequentially from one stage to the next.
Right.
And then there are Jackson networks, which are these more complex interconnected systems.
And what's amazing is that even in these complex systems, we can sometimes find that predictable pattern, what we call a product form stationary distribution.
It really is remarkable. Even when things seem utterly chaotic, there's often an underlying order, something we can analyze and
It's
understand.
incredible. Who knew that something as simple as waiting in line could be so mathematically rich?
Well, we've just scratched the surface. The power of queuing theory is in its wide-ranging application.
So tell me more about these applications. Where does queuing theory actually show up in the real world? So tell me more about these applications. Where does queuing theory actually show up in the real world?
Well, it pops up in some surprising places, like epidemiology.
Epidemiology, you mean like the study of diseases?
Exactly. Think about how a contagious disease spreads.
Okay,
It's a lot like that coffee shop example. You have arrivals and service.
I'm listening.
An infected person, they're like a job arriving in a population. And the service, well, that's either recovery or unfortunately succumbing to the illness.
Right.
And just like with those coffee-loving customers, the rate of infection, how quickly those jobs arrive, is key in how the disease spreads.
So you're saying that epidemiologists can use queuing theory to model an epidemic, predict when it will peak, even assess the impact of things like social distancing or vaccination.
Precisely.
That's fascinating. So from public health to our daily caffeine fix, queuing theory has quite a reach.
It does. And let's not forget about product development. Think about a production line with multiple stages.
Each stage being a queuing node.
Exactly. And the products moving along, those are our jobs. The time it takes to complete each stage, that's the service time.
Right, and any bottlenecks in the process, that's where those queues build up, slowing things down.
Exactly. So by using queuing theory, we can pinpoint those bottlenecks, optimize the flow, and make the whole process more efficient.
It's amazing how this idea of waiting lines applies to something as complex as manufacturing.
It's all about finding those patterns. And of course, we can't forget the digital world. Queuing theory is crucial in network design.
Oh yeah, like data packets traveling across the internet.
Right. Each router, each switch, it's all a queuing node.
So those packets are like tiny jobs competing to get transmitted.
Precisely, the arrival rate, the processing time at each node, the network structure, it all affects how well the system performs.
So queuing theory helps keep the internet running smoothly, prevents those dreaded traffic jams, and makes our online experience faster.
Exactly. It's the unseen hand guiding the flow of information.
Wow. From fighting diseases to brewing coffee to keeping the internet humming, queuing theory really is everywhere.
It is, but there's another fascinating aspect we haven't touched on yet, the power of scheduling.
Scheduling, I thought a queue was just a queue, first come, first served, right?
Not always. There's actually a lot of nuance in managing queues, different service disciplines or scheduling policies. They can make a big difference in how efficient and fair a system is.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about these different ways to manage the waiting game.
Well, let's start with the classic FIFO, first in, first out. The first person in line gets served first.
Right, seems fair.
It is, but it's not always the most efficient. There are situations where other policies might work better.
Okay, give me some examples.
Take LIFO, last in, first out. It's like a stack of plates. The last one you put on is the first one you take off.
Interesting.
Sounds counterintuitive, but it can be useful in certain scenarios, like managing a computer's memory stack.
Ah, so the best scheduling policy really depends on the context and what you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. Then we have things like shortest job first, where the jobs with the shortest processing times get priority.
So by getting those smaller tasks out of the way quickly, it benefits the whole system.
Precisely. And then there are priority queues, where jobs with higher priority get served first, like in an emergency room. Critical patients obviously need to be seen before those with less urgent needs.
Right, in those situations, urgency trumps fairness.
Exactly. And these are just a few examples. The world of scheduling policies is quite vast and complex, each with its own advantages and disadvantages.
This is fascinating. I never realized there was so much strategic thinking behind something as seemingly simple as managing a queue.
It really is a whole hidden world of optimization and efficiency.
It's kind of funny. No matter how much we try to optimize and streamline things, waiting is just a part of life.
Isn't it? Even with all our fancy math and algorithms, we can't escape the queue. It's a humbling thought.
Maybe it's a reminder that some things are just out of our control.
Or maybe it just shows how complex these systems really are. We're dealing with people, random events, so many interactions. No wonder we haven't figured out how to get instant gratification.
Right. But even if we can't eliminate waiting completely, understanding how it works can make it a little less frustrating, right?
Absolutely.
So to our listeners out there, next time you're stuck in a long line, take a moment to think about what's going on.
Think about that arrival rate, the service time, how they're managing the queue.
Maybe you'll even find yourself calculating the probability of reaching the front.
Who knows, maybe you'll start seeing those queues in a whole new light. Not just a nuisance, but a fascinating glimpse into how things work.
Now, if you're feeling really brave, you could always try explaining Kendall's notation to the people around you.
That might make the wait more interesting, or maybe not.
But on a serious note, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about queuing theory, there's a lot more to explore out there.
You could look up the queuing rule of thumb, for instance, or see how queuing theory is used in traffic management.
And hey, even if you don't become a queuing theory expert, the next time you're waiting in line, you'll have a new appreciation for the science behind it.
That's right.
Until next time, may your queues be short, your waits be enlightening, and your understanding of the world just a little bit deeper.